Good morning, students. So, in the previous video that was shared, so there we had started with module 5, wherein we just started with the introduction part, like a theory related part, brief introduction about that is here we had seen about when this iPhone was released, and we also saw about some of the features which Apple had used, and which is still used by the other software manufacturers, which companies or mobile manufacturing companies who are still using all these features. So we had seen about this. Then we had also seen what are the different Apple devices. So here they have concentrated only on iPhone, iPod, and iPad, wherein they're also telling us which is the iOS version that is shipped along with the device, and what is the maximum iOS version that can be accommodated to that particular device. Then we also saw that is the tools what and all you require. So first thing what they're saying here is, first you must know about the hardware, because that is the most expensive things when you compare all the others. So on the hardware we had seen about the program levels, and we also saw about the provisioning portals. Then we spoke about the Xcode and iOS SDK. So if you are planning to develop an iOS application, then we require this Xcode and iOS SDK. So to do this, you have to work in Macintosh system only. Okay. So for that purpose, we are not able to demonstrate this. So this should be done in the Mac system, and these are the tools that are available in your SDK. That is, you have Xcode, then you have dashboard, so wherein you can write your code. So here you can start writing your application. And next we also spoke about that is HIG. So what is this HIG? So before you actually go into develop an iOS application, so first of all you have to refer this HIG. So this is a document which is going to give you some guidelines, or you can also say that is user interface principle. So if your application is following all those principles, then only it will be accepted in the Apple App Store. Otherwise, there can be a possibility that your application can be rejected. So, what they're saying here is, before you actually plan, or before you actually jump into developing the application for the iOS, you have to refer this HIG. Only then you can go ahead with writing the code for your iOS application. Okay, so that HIG can be checked out in this particular location. So the path is given to you in your textbook. So you can just check out that particular path wherein you're going to get the different principles. Okay, so next we'll move on with the next topic, that is iOS project. Okay, so this is the next topic of your syllabus. So there are many steps that we need to follow before we actually start creating an iOS application. Okay, so that is what we are going to see in our iOS project. So before you actually start going ahead with the creation of iOS application, some of the steps what and all you need to follow, that is given here. So few of them is being told here, not the complete thing, but only few of them. Okay, so that is what we are going to see in anatomy of an iOS app. So what you're saying here is, the files that are actually deployed in the iOS device, so they are called as .app file. Okay, so this iOS .app files, which are actually deployed in iOS device, they are nothing but just a set of directories. Okay, so .app files are nothing but they are the set of directories. So there is actually actual binary of for this iOS application. So you can open that you can open the .app file, and there you can find in some images, metadata, and other resources that can be included. So all those information will be there in your .app file. Okay. So next we will move on with the different parts of this anatomy. So the first thing what we are speaking is about views. So views we have already seen in the previous chapters. So views are nothing but they are the graphical user interface elements that you can use in your application. So when we were speaking about the Android, there we had already seen about views. So we also saw that in Android Studios, right? So in Android Studio, what you can do, you can in your XML part, either you can write the views as a coding part, or you can just go to the design section, and from the palette you can just select and you can place the desired view. So we are speaking about the same views in iOS also. Okay. So iPhone apps are again made up of one or more views. So you can have any number of views in your iPhone apps also. In Android apps, how you are having or how you are using the views, similarly here also you can have the views. So these views are nothing but, as we told, that is graphical user elements. So some of the views we had already seen when we are speaking about the Android. So we had some views like text fields, and we had also seen some views like labels, buttons, all those things. Okay. So you can build a view using the interface builder tool, which enables you to drag and drop controls on the view. So you can create a view entirely with the code also. So we have already seen in Android Studio, that is you can write the coding, right? So in the .xml file you can write the code for the view, or you can simply drag and drop, right? You can go to the palette and you can simply drag and drop. So same thing is there here also. So what we are saying, how we can build our view, it can be built using the interface builder tool. So which allows us to simply drag and drop the controls, or you can do it entirely with the code. So how we wrote the code in .xml file, that is what here we are speaking about. Okay. So here all this will be done in our Macintosh system. Okay. So under views, what you are going to say, so views are nothing but they are the graphical user elements. So this views can be built using interface builder tool, which allows us to simply drag and drop the control on the view, or you can write the view entirely in code. So when you say an IO app, you can have any number of views. Okay. The next point under the anatomy of iOS we are saying is code that makes the view work. So here when we say about iOS application, they follow the MVC pattern, that is model view and controller design pattern. So because since it is using this, there is a clear separation between user interface and the code that provides the code that is there for the application. Okay. So under this point, what you have to say here is the code that makes the view work is here the iOS application is following the MVC design pattern, that is model view and controller. Because of that, there is a clear separation between the user interface as well as the code. Okay. So that's all what you have to say for code that makes the view work. Next comes the resources. So every iOS application contains an icon file, that is an info.plist file, that is going to hold the information about the application itself and the binary executables related to it. Okay. And it can also have other resources such as images, any images you're using. So when you spoke about Android, there we said about the resource file, right? That in drawables and all, you can have the images. Similarly here also, other resources such as images, sounds, and video, all these are called as your resources. Okay. So under resources, what you're going to say, resources in our iOS application, we are having an icon file. That icon file you can name it as info playlist. file that is holding the information about the application itself, and along with that the binary executables also. Then any images if you're using in your application, or any sound or any video you're using, all these are classified as resources. Okay. Next point will come, that is project structure in depth. So what we have to say under this is, whenever an iOS project is created with our Xcode, so Xcode we already saw here. So this is your Xcode, wherein you can write your application or the code related to your application. So whenever an iOS project is created within Xcode, the IDE is going to create a set of files that are ready to run. Okay, that is what we are going to see here in we have in this figure. So when an iOS project is created within this Xcode, the IDE is going to create some set of files that will be ready to run. These files are going to provide the basics of what is required to get the new project up and running. Okay, so the files that are created for the new project, here in this case, our project name is delete me. So what are the files that are created for this project delete me, that is shown in this particular figure. Okay, so what you're saying under project structure, that is we are using the Xcode to write our right to create our project. So when that is used, the IDE is going to create some set of files, okay, that are ready to run. So these files are going to provide basics, that is what is required to run or make your project work. Okay, so the file here, the project name is delete me. What are the files associated with delete me, that is given to us here. So first one in that we'll see here is main.m. So main.m. So we all of us have written programs in C program, right? C program we all have learned. So as with C program, the execution of Objective C application start with main function. So that is nothing but your main.m file. Okay. So in C, how we are saying program execution starts from main. So similarly here it is main.m file. So this is a file that is created by the IDE of Xcode. Okay. Similarly, next one you have is app delegate.m. So the app delegate is going to receive messages from the application object during the lifetime of your application. So that is this app delegate, okay, which is going to get some information from your application's object uh, throughout your application. So the app delegate is called from the operating system, and it contains some events such as did finish launching with the options, whether the launching with the given option has it completed. Okay, which is an event that iOS is most what willing to know what the status of that particular event. Okay, so that is present in your app delegate.m. Next one is your main storyboard, that is storyboard. So you can see here we have main storyboard, the storyboard. So each of these files has been told here. Okay, so first we spoke about main.m, then we had app.delegate.m. Now we are coming to main story board.storyboard. So in this particular file is where the user interface is created. Okay, so user interface we know already now, right? We are using what suppose you're telling the user to enter his username as well as password. So you're having the text box wherein the user can enter his username. So all those will be created in your main storyboard. So in the older versions of Xcode, the user interface was stored in a file that is called, which is having an extension as XIB. Okay. So in the older version of Xcode, all the interfaces were stored in a file with an extension XIB, but the file was called as lib files. Okay. So still this is there, But along with that, a concept about the storyboards are nothing but greater improvement over the nib files. That is, more improvement is done for this nib file. That is nothing but your storyboard, wherein user interfaces are stored. Okay. So the improvement in the nib files for the application, in which what can be the improvement? What are the improvements? Wherein you can have complex navigation and many views. So we know the meaning of navigation, right? You click on a particular button, then you'll be redirected to one more point. Again, from there you can click on something, then you can go to the next page, like that. Okay. So in main storyboard, what we are going to say here is user interfaces will be stored in this. So usually it will be stored in the nib files, but in storyboard, that is an improvement that is done to the nib files. That is your storyboards, wherein you can have complex navigation. Along with that, you can have many views also. Okay, and the last thing comes is supporting files. So, supporting files directory contain files such as your plist, setting files, which can consist some customizable application settings, as well as you can see here we have a plist. Here one more plist you have. So these are nothing but directories that contain files. We can call it as plist setting files, which can have some application setting related information, as well as string resource files that are used in our application. Okay. So in supporting files, what you can say, you can have some settings related information. So they are the directory. So supporting files is a directory which can consist of files. What kind of files? Here you can see even the main.m is also present inside supporting files. Other than that, you can have some files that are required for the string resource files. That is info playlist.string, or some file related to the settings or the application settings. Even those files will be stored in this supporting files. So that is about your anatomy of iOS. So in anatomy of iOS, you have to say about views, code that makes the view work, resources, project structure. Under the project structure, these points you have to say. Other than this, even others are there, but here, as we told in the beginning, few of them have been explained here. That is a main.m, delegate, storyboard, and supporting file. Okay. So that is about your anatomy of iOS app, an important question from examination point of view. Okay. Next, we'll go to the next topic, that is getting to know the Xcode ID. So we said we can go in and we can develop an we can develop an iOS application using Xcode ID, right? So here what we are going to say here is any job what you want to do. So first of all, you must know that is correct tool to do this job. So they're saying that suppose you are planning to construct a house, then you must know how. So first, what will happen? You're going to create a blueprint, right? The plan will be created. Only then you're going in, actually going in to build the house. Similarly, constructing an application. So if you want to construct an application, first of all you must know, so it is important to use the correct tool for your job. That is what they're saying in the beginning. That is getting to know Xcode ID. So here what are we saying here is, before we actually go in to construct an application, first of all we must know what are the correct tools we have to use to do our task. Okay. So here we are using Xcode and doing. So if we are new to this Xcode, then obviously some learning curve is required for us to get a hold on this ID. So we must do some research on this Xcode. If that is obvious, right? If you're using any new application, we will do some research on that application about how to work on it, all those things. So here under getting to know Xcode ID, so first point we will be speaking about navigators. So here under navigator, so you can see here over here, okay, the left side of the, this is your Xcode window. Okay, this entire thing is your Xcode window. The left side of your Xcode window, that is this part. So this is called as your navigation area. So here you are having different navigation enabled, wherein you can list the contents of your project. Okay, so you can see here in hello world, so your project name is your project name is hello world. Under this, what are the different files that are there? So to list all those files, you can go in, or you can check it out in the project navigator. Okay, so from here we are moving, discuss, so we are moving from left to right. Okay, from this side to this side. So first one, you can see here you have a folder kind of icon here. So that is nothing but the project navigator. So this is when you click on this, what happens is it is just going to show you what are the different files that are there in your project. Okay, so this simply shows the content of your project, or you can also call it as the workspace. Okay, so double clicking on a file in this project navigator will open it in a new window, or you can just single click on the file within this Xcode uh, workspace, then it will be opened. So what is the content of that particular file will be opened over here. Okay, so this is about your project navigator. Similarly, next one you have is search navigator. So you can see here you have a search kind of icon here. So in this case, this will allow you to locate text within your project or a workspace. So you can just click on this. You can see here a magnifier glass kind of symbol. That is nothing but your search navigator. So what you want to search, you can just type in. So it is going to display you that particular text, okay, within your project. That is about your search navigator. Next one you have is the issue navigator. So you can see here the next icon here, that is an exclamatory type of symbol, a warning kind of symbol. That is nothing but your issue navigator. So issue navigator is going to list you what are the project warnings or any errors in real time. That is as you are so in your project, if you have any warnings or errors that is there right now, so that thing will be displayed. Okay, as you make any mistake, so this warnings or errors will be shown. So this navigator shows any issues that is preventing your code from compiling. So here you can see here, here what is the error, that is parse issue, that is expected semicolon after an expression. So you can see here this is nothing but your issue navigator, which is going to tell us any errors or warning that has been occurred in your project, because of which compilation is not taking place. So that information is shown here in your issue navigator. So if there is any error that is occurred here in your code, then you can simply click on this issue navigator, then it will be displayed. Okay, so that is about your issue navigator. Next one will go to storyboards. So what are the storyboards? The iOS version before iOS 5. Okay, in older versions of iOS, what happened is developers had to create a separate nib file for each views of their application. So in their application, every views what they're having in their application, for that separate nib files they had to create. Okay, so this nib files, or you can also say xib, okay, with the .xib extension. So the file is nothing but an XML representation of which is representing your controls and in any instance variable what you have used All those are represented in your xib, or you can also call it as nib files. uh, all this controls or instance variable, they will be compiled into your application. So all those will be present in there in this nib file. So in the older versions of iOS, what happened is the developer had to create a separate nib files for all the views. Okay, so managing an application that contains so if you are having application in which many views are there, then in that case what happens, for all those views separate nib files means just assume the amount of files what you can have. So that would be really a tougher job, right? So from iOS 5 onwards, a new feature was added. That new feature is nothing but what we are calling as storyboards. Okay, so this storyboards that enables a developer to lay out their workflow using design tools built within the Xcode. So you can see in this diagram. So just see here, this allows the developer to lay out their workflow. Okay, so you can see here you have a tab controller. So when you click on this tab controller, what does mean? You can go for first view, second view, or third view. So these views are nothing but it can be either text fields, or any labels, or any buttons. It can be anything. Okay, so we're just given in general as first view, second view, third view. So what is the storyboard? So what we are saying, in the older version of iOS, what happened for every view? So if this is your text field, if the first view is the text field, you assume, for that you had to create a separate nib file in which XML representation of your instance as well as control, everything would be present. Again, for the second view, one more zip file. Third view, one more zip file. So that is what was happening in the older version of iOS. So from iOS 5 onwards, what happened, this concept of storyboard came into picture, in which it allowed the developer to lay out their workflow using the design tools that is present in a Xcode. Okay, apps that use navigation and tab bars to transition between views became, by using this, it became much simpler to manage. So here we had a visual representation of how the apps would flow, right? So that is what we are saying here. Here, this particular diagram, when you look at this diagram, you'll get to know, here we have a tab bar. So from the tab bar, or when you click on the tab bar, what happens? View 1, view 2, view 3, that is first view, second view, and third view. You can move into any of them. That is, navigation can be done either to first view, second view, or third view. Okay, so here transitions and segues are used to switch between the views without having to code them by hand. So here transitions, that is, here you can see this arrow marks, what we are saying, that is nothing but or we can also call it as segues, that arrow marks which is showing us the direction, that is from this tab bar where you can go, that is shown in this arrow marks, right? So this is giving us an idea about how the flow is happening. So it is not required for us to manually code each one of them. By using this transitions or segues, we can um, show the navigation. Okay, so with storyboards we are having a better conceptual overview of all the app views in our app, and we can also know the connection between all the views, right? So here, what is the connection? We can say from the tab bar we have a connection for the first view, second view, as well as the third view. Okay, so that is what is shown in this diagram. So that is here tab bar. From the tab bar, we have navigation to three views. So here, segues are nothing but the arrows that connect these views. You're calling it as a segues. Okay, so that is all about yes. So in the next class, we'll be seeing about building the Derby app in iOS. Okay, so that's all for today's session.